can stand at the tourist viewpoint, where the Ruik River meets the Mekong, look up and see 3 flags on 3 banks, take a bin to the Golden Triangle photo, then turn around for coffee like it's any other check-in spot. But if there's one place in Southeast Asia where national borders feel like a thin layer of paint over something deeper, it's here. In this landscape, a border isn't just a line on a map, it's a seam, and through that seam flow cash, synthetic drugs, weapons, corruption, forced labor, and the kind of low, persistent conflict that spreads the way water soaks into soil. The Golden Triangle becomes a fatal weak point for Southeast Asian security, not because it is the loudest place, but because it is the most resilient, hard to grasp, hard to seal, and able to turn other problems, poverty, insurgency, and modern criminal technology into a self-sustaining ecosystem. Start with something ordinary, a border seizure in a small province. No need for sensational details, just familiar images, crates, sacks, tightly wrapped packages, and year-over-year statistics that keep climbing. Behind every seizure sits a long chain of blind spots, goods leaving a valley, crossing a stretch of river, changing hands at a warehouse, being legalized with paperwork, then reappearing as clean profit inside a financial system or inside casinos, hotels, and front companies. The most frightening part isn't any single shipment. It's that the system keeps working even when a few shipments are stopped, because it doesn't depend on one route, one boss, or one product. It is a shadow economy built to adapt. So why does the Golden Triangle have the biology to become a lock Southeast Asia can't seem to pick? The answer sits in 3 stacked layers: geography, political history, and modern criminal economics. The first layer is geography, terrain that naturally resists centralized control. The Golden Triangle is not merely a point where 3 countries meet. It is a belt of mountains and forests, valleys and big rivers, footpaths and informal crossings, diverse ethnic communities, and regions that are far from the center in both physical and political terms. The modern state likes straight lines, straight highways, straight fences, straight checkpoints, straight paperwork. But mountains and rivers do not obey that logic. A river shifts course, a forest trail opens under local trade pressure, a seasonal crossing forms with the harvest stand. Suddenly the control map is out of alignment. When 3 states converge on difficult terrain, small misalignments add up into a major seam, tighten one bank, and the flow simply finds another. But geography is only the base. The second layer is what makes the weakness fatal. The political history of this frontier produced long-lasting gaps in sovereignty. Through the Cold War and after, the Golden Triangle did not grow as a unified national space. It evolved as a patchwork of forces: local strongmen, insurgents, ethnic armed networks, border traders, and outside interventions. For many communities here, at many times, the state was a luxury concept. People had more contact with guns than with public services. When power fragments like that, what replaces order is not stability, but arrangements. And the easiest way to sustain weapons, feed fighters, and buy loyalty is through illicit money. Picture a farmer in the hills of eastern Shan State in Myanmar. He doesn't read international news. He doesn't track diplomatic statements. He tracks food prices, fuel prices, and whether his child can stay in school. When conflict drags on, the economy collapses, legal markets shrink, and survival choices tighten like a rope around the chest. In those conditions, poppy cultivation or any link in the illicit economy becomes a form of survival insurance, not because people love crime, but because crime pays more reliably than the state. This is how the Golden Triangle turns political instability into economic fuel for the underworld. And once the underworld grows rich enough, it buys more instability to protect itself. That is the self-reinforcing loop. The third layer is the evolution of criminal economics. The Golden Triangle shifted from a drug agriculture model to a drug industry model, and then from drugs into a multi-sector criminal ecosystem where drugs are only one revenue stream among many. In the public imagination, the Golden Triangle is tied to opium and heroin. But in the 21st century, What makes it more dangerous is synthetic drugs products that do not depend on seasons, acreage, or weather. They depend on money, chemical inputs, technical know-how, and protection for production sites. That changes the security equation. With opium, you can see the fields. With synthetics, you confront hidden labs in the mountains that can move, re-establish quickly, ramp up output when demand rises, and most importantly, generate margins big enough to buy an armed protection layer. This is where the fatal weak point becomes obvious. Regional security systems are often designed for traditional threats, border clashes, small-scale smuggling, localized insurgency. But the Golden Triangle produces a hybrid threat at once internal security, public health, finance, diplomacy, and technology. It's a multi-bladed knife. Grab any blade and you get cut. Look at one link that sounds non-military but is profoundly military: money. In the end, every state's battle with organized crime is a battle over cash flow. And the Golden Triangle is a machine that produces cash. Synthetic drugs expand markets quickly: cheaper prices, stable supply, easy subdivision, easy transport. As supply surges, the user market spreads, and social burdens rise. Overloaded health systems, street violence, property crime to finance addiction, family breakdown, and younger generations pulled into the spiral. A state can build more prisons, increase manpower, intensify raids. But if money keeps flowing, it's like bailing water from a boat with a hole in its hull. And Golden Triangle money does not stay inside one country. It crosses borders the same way the goods do. It seeks laundering channels: real estate, casinos, tourism businesses, border trade, logistics, even online operations. That's why security here is not only a story of soldiers and police. It is also a story of banks, customs, corporate oversight, special zone governance, data management, and visa policy. 1 weak link-loose monitoring mechanism, an opaque special zone, a network of shell companies is enough to give dirty money a path. Once money has a path, weapons have a market. Once weapons have a market, conflict has oxygen. Once conflict persists, territory becomes harder to govern. Once territory becomes harder to govern, hidden production has room to breathe. The Golden Triangle functions like a loop-making machine. Now we arrive at the core why. Why is this a fatal weak point for Southeast Asian security, not just a drug problem? Because it erodes three foundations every state needs to stay safe: territorial integrity, institutional integrity, and social health. First, it erodes sovereignty quietly. Sovereignty is not just border markers. It is the ability to enforce law, deliver public services, and maintain the monopoly on legitimate force across the territory. The Golden Triangle is where the concept is most consistently challenged, because non-state armed actors, insurgent groups, militias, protection networks split that monopoly. When force is shared, law becomes negotiable. If you're a trader at the frontier, you don't only ask what is the rule. You ask who controls this stretch of road today. The existence of that question tells you how fragile sovereignty can be. Second, it erodes institutions through corruption and captured interests. No large cross-border illicit system survives without smooth points inside the apparatus. But in the Golden Triangle, the danger is that corruption can stop being an individual deviation and become part of the local economy. People survive on informal fees, protection payments, and related services. Then fighting crime is not only about arresting criminals. It means confronting a dense web of livelihoods and interests. As institutions erode, public trust falls, societies polarize, and states weaken exactly what every underworld actor wants. Third, it attacks social health directly. Synthetic drugs don't only addict. They distort community rhythms. Workers lose capacity. Families lose pillars. Children grow up in unstable environments, and law enforcement is dragged into an exhausting, never-ending campaign. A society weakened from within struggles to handle other shocks: economic crises, natural disasters, geopolitical tensions. That is the fatal element. The Golden Triangle may not collapse a state overnight, but it can weaken states over time. And there is yet another layer, very 21st century in flavor, the convergence of drugs, cybercrime, and cross-border gray zones. Along the Mekong, it's not only drugs. There are gambling hubs, special economic enclaves, and in recent years, industrialized online scam operations, what many now call scam compounds. Why does that matter to the Golden Triangle story? Because the operating logic is the same: exploit governance gaps, leverage borders, rely on coercion or violence to run operations, and launder money through hard-to-trace channels. When criminal industries converge, risk multiplies. A network can use drug money to build infrastructure, use infrastructure to run scams, use scams to harvest personal data, and then use data to extort or scale manipulation. What begins as a drug hotspot can become a multi-purpose criminal platform. At this point, a natural question appears. Why don't states coordinate, seal the borders, and sweep everything away? The answer lies in the region's paradoxes. The first paradox is that borders are both risk and livelihood. Many communities live off border trade, family ties across lines, seasonal labor. If you seal it in an extreme way, you choke legal economics and push people toward illicit options. Organized crime loves rigid crackdowns without alternatives because they increase demand for crossing services and raise the value of protection. The task is smart control, not blind closure. The second paradox is legal and political asymmetry. One country treats drugs as priority number one, another is consumed by internal crisis. Another prioritizes investment and tourism, or contains special zones that are structurally opaque. As soon as priorities diverge, criminal networks choose the weaker side for logistics, the stronger side to avoid. Regional cooperation is necessary, but real cooperation is difficult when information is sensitive, economic interests are entangled, and strategic trust is uneven. The third paradox is that you cannot arrest an economic phenomenon using only security tools. If demand remains large, if social shocks and employment, despair, instability push demand upward, and if margins remain enormous, supply will adapt. One group falls, another replaces it. One route is hit, another opens. With synthetics, regeneration is faster than the old agricultural model. So we return to the main question. Why is the Golden Triangle a fatal weak point for Southeast Asian security? Because it is the perfect convergence of the three conditions transnational crime needs to thrive: space that is hard to control, power that is fragmented, and a regional market big enough to absorb the output. Southeast Asia also happens to be a region of busy sea lanes and land corridors, logistics hubs, tourism flows, rapid urbanization, and visible inequality, everything that creates both opportunity and exit routes for illicit networks. The Golden Triangle acts like a pressure valve, releasing illegal flows into the regional system and raising the security temperature everywhere. But fatal weak point is not destiny. It simply means that if you don't face the structure, you'll keep treating symptoms. To change the trajectory, you have to break the loops. The loop of conflict, crime, money, conflict. The loop of poverty, illicit work, protection, poverty. The loop of dirty money, corruption, weak institutions, dirty money. That requires a different kind of strategy: security plus development, finance, technology, and diplomacy. Better control of chemical inputs, better tracking of money flows, greater transparency in gray zones, stronger intelligence coordination, and, equally important, credible alternative livelihoods so people don't have to choose darkness. At the same time, there's a hard truth. As long as conflict zones remain places where power is unstable, crime will have soil to root in. Golden Triangle security cannot be separated from the question of peace and governance in fragmented territories. To end, return again to the place where three currents meet. By day, it's a scenic viewpoint. By night, it's a symbol: three states, three legal systems, three political priorities, but one continuous geography. The Golden Triangle is dangerous because it turns those differences into opportunity. It's where borders become a commodity, sovereignty gets sliced into negotiable pockets, and the shadow economy can outgrow the legal one. And that's why it isn't only a crime hotspot, it is a stress test for the region's capacity to govern in a world where crime is global, technology is fast, and instability spreads easily. If the answer is yes, the Golden Triangle can slowly lose its power as a center of darkness. If the answer is no, it will keep doing what it has done for decades. Without capturing a single capital, it still forces every capital to pay a price.